Welcome to the Matthew Allton Art channel again. I'm here near the Lake District in Ulverston, and I went out today with the intent of painting outside on plein air, but it's so windy and so changeable that I chickened out basically. I couldn't possibly paint anything in the time before it changed because the clouds were whipping by and the light was changing so rapidly, and also everything would have blown away. It was that windy. So I went up into the lakes, the western lakes, up the Duddon Valley, and took a few photographs instead. And I've come back to the shepherd's hut where I'm staying to actually try and do a gouache sketch of one of those photographs that I took. It's not exactly the idea of the painting holiday. I was supposed to be getting out there painting, but you know, I don't want to put myself off by giving myself too many difficult tasks. Let's do something slightly easier. So I'm first of all going to draw out this photograph that I took, which is of a sort of a farm building, some trees and sunlight on distant valley side trees behind. I pulled the car into a lay-by on the road up to Ulpha and loved this view across the valley from where I was parked. I like the barn in the view, and I took quite a lot of photographs, kept waiting for the sun to come and sort of illuminate this side of the valley, but unfortunately, you know, I took 20 photos and didn't manage that. So I've had to make do with sort of quite a dull landscape, really. But that's the drawing just about done there. It's the main features. Well, that's the rough drawing out done. Don't know if you can see that in any detail. So now for the quick gouache sketch. Well, I'm starting here by just wetting the sky. It's sensible to work from the top to the bottom. I'm just putting very light watercolour type washes on with this gouache, with burnt umber, cobalt blue, and a bit of crimson, I think, in there. I'm just adding yellow there to the horizon to give the impression that there's some sunlight in that direction, and then just adding over the top of that some of the sort of scudding clouds of the day, that very windy day. And I'm just taking out cloud shapes now using a tissue, which is quite useful for giving soft fluffy clouds impression. Now starting with the distant hills on the far valley side. As with gouache, I've said before, it's very difficult because it dries so much lighter than it looks when it's wet, so that looks quite dark to me. But of course it was a very dull day, so you can sometimes have distance not as pale as it might appear on a sunny day, really, because if it happens to be very cloudy over there, that can make a distant hill darker than a hill that's nearer to you. It's very grey and grey-green in the distance, and that's partly to indicate the distance with a bit of aerial perspective. You'll see as I go through the painting that I try to make the greens more yellow, and then of course there's reds, which again is quite a near colour for the bracken in the foreground that's added. After the pale wash here, I'm just adding some of the pine trees, and you'll see on this nearer hillside the pine trees are darker, so not only a change in colour for the aerial perspective from cooler colours to warmer colours, but also more intense colours the closer that you get, which helps to give the impression of receding distance. The trees I'm just trying to indicate here by dots, really, and it's one of the things I don't like so much about this painting. It's a bit too dotty. when it's finished, as you'll see later on. There you'll see some more yellowy green on the nearer hillside, just to bring that forward from the hillside behind. There's sort of like a valley going up there diagonally across the painting. Not trying to draw individual trees, but again just trying to give the impression of trees, really. The fly there, I was totally unaware of that when I was actually painting in this episode, but you'll see it makes an appearance throughout the video. It must have liked something in the paint, I don't know. Now this is almost looks black on the video, but it actually was a very dark green made of raw umber, cobalt blue and green, I think. And I'm trying to experiment here by putting the darks on first, as you would with an oil painting probably, and then build up towards the lights on the trees. And you'll see that these trees take quite a lot of work throughout the painting. But of course they're more intense again because they're sort of on this side of the valley, these trees, hence they're much bigger as well, obviously. But that increase in intensity helps bring them forward from the far valley side. The fly still shooting around the page, drinking the paint. It's just as well it wasn't leaving footprints everywhere, I guess. I'm now putting some darker shadow on again, so I'm going backwards and forwards trying to work out how this paint works, really. I'm not very familiar with it, really. Now the barn, just washing it in. I'm trying to really get rid of the white paper at this stage. You'll see me start adding some of the bracken and stuff now. Very intense red for the bracken at the moment, but of course that will all be very much toned down as I put shadows and stuff on it in the next few minutes on the painting. Beginning to try to indicate which way the light's coming on the barn. But again, I'm just blocking it in really at this stage. Again, just blocking in a colour of green there. It's not bracken everywhere, and there's actually a green track running down towards the barn and then round to the right. Returning to those trees. I think it's partly because as the darks dry again, they become much lighter, so they're not as dark as they look when you put them on first, and therefore you sometimes have to go over and make them darker again. And now building up highlights back onto that dark as I have just added the shadow again. So there's probably about 3 or 4 layers on these trees, just because I'm learning how to use the paint, really. Hopefully I'll get better and be able to do that in one in future. And again here I'm toning down the bracken, but also just adding random bits of colour that are roughly in the right plane and direction, just to give the indication of rough land with bracken on it in the foreground. It's something I need to work at, because I often try to paint far too detailed, really. And what I'm aiming for really is to be able to paint the impression of detail without actually painting any detail. So again, just different colours and different contrasts here. Bluer greens just to indicate sort of shadows in areas amongst the green area, obviously, and there'll be bluey browns in the bracken just to indicate clumps of vegetation. Now some highlights going in. And again, all this is dulling down the original very red bracken in the first place. And it wasn't very red because it was such a dull day, really. You do get that intense red when there's sunlight on it in the Lake District, but it was very dull. So just trying to add some darker areas and some lighter areas just to vary those impressionistic blocks of vegetation, really. More darks in the foreground to indicate the height of the vegetation. Bit of detail on the far wall. Again, just patches of different coloured green to indicate the variety that's in front of me. I've toned that distant field down at the bottom of the valley there. It was quite acid green, but in the painting it just looked like that was sort of the main focus of the painting, so I've sort of toned it down. It's my painting, I can do what I like. Here's me trying to get rid of those dotty trees in the background by putting water on top of the background hills just to make them a bit more subtle. And then some final detail in darker colour at the foreground, just to indicate some detail that isn't really there. Some leaf shapes, random leaf shapes here, brackeny type shapes. And we're coming towards the end now. Well, this is the finished painting. Overall, I learnt quite a lot while I was doing it. I'm not particularly happy with it. It's probably a bit too loose. But I sort of quite like the impressionistic impression of the bracken in the foreground. The hills in the background are too splodgy, and you saw that I went over those and tried to remove the bittiness of it, because it's a bit too like pointillistic, really. But overall, considering it's quite a large painting, I'm not used to doing large paintings in gouache, it's not too bad. Thanks for watching again. I'm sorry it took a little while to upload this. I was planning to do them while I was away, but I couldn't because of the Wi-Fi, and also my laptop didn't allow me to use Adobe Premiere on it, something to do with the video drivers. Oh well. So I'll be catching up and putting the ones up online over the next few days, the ones that I've got footage of, and that's most of them I think that I did while I was away. So do stay tuned. There should be quite a few videos this week. Do subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Do give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and of course click the notification bell and you'll be notified as they appear, the videos appear this week and into the future. So thanks once again. I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.